All right, let's just go back to last week now. Explain to us what exactly happened.
Well, last week, the National Council of Provinces passed the Protection of State Information Bill. This had been after almost a year of previously the National Assembly had passed a different version. So over the last year, the National Council of Provinces had held public meetings across the country, submissions were made, and a lot of changes were made to the bill. So this is a passage of a different version of the bill that had been previously passed by the National Assembly.
All right. What are the changes that stand out for you?
Well, there are a few changes. Certainly the definition of national security, which was so wide as to drive a truck through, has been narrowed quite substantially, which is a partial victory. And particularly around the fact that this piece of legislation really only applies to the state security and intelligence agencies, as opposed to every single government department. That was a victory, certainly. The other victory was that we have a partial public interest defense that has been put into the bill, not a full public interest defense. So if you are disclosing or disseminating information that is a result of showing criminal activity, you won't get prosecuted. That's a partial victory as well, which we had demanded from the beginning. And then there are several other small ones with regards to a classification review panel, as well as the powers of the Minister of State Security to protect the state security agency from scrutiny have been tightened up quite a bit. So there are a few changes, but we don't believe they've only gone about halfway.
Okay, so they are listening, but with half an ear, basically, is what you're telling me. There's still more that needs to be changed.
There's definitely a lot more that needs to be changed. We've said from the very beginning that there has to be a full public interest defense for journalists, for others, for members of civil society. The ANC's refused to budge on this one because simply the problem is that as the bill stands, if you or I or anybody else simply possesses or discloses any information that might, for example, say it's an imminent public danger, an environmental risk, we are liable for criminal prosecution. It's not covered in the bill. So there's still several areas which are problematic. The review panel is not sufficiently independent. The state security still has quite a bit of leeway to abuse the process of classification, and the public doesn't have any way to get in and question that process. So there's still a range of different issues that we have pointed out. Economic secrets are still covered. What does that really mean? What are economic secrets? That could mean a whole range of things. So there's still a range of things that we're very concerned with.
Okay, so what's happening now? Has a constitutional court application already been started?
It has already been started. Okay. It's waiting in the wings. But before that happens, other things can happen to get it to the Constitutional Court. First, any opposition party which gets 30% of the parliament to basically vote on this can refer it themselves to the Constitutional Court. Opposition parties have said they would do that. We'll see. If that doesn't happen and it goes to President Zuma, he can refer it to the Constitutional Court himself for review. So there could be at least two steps before it even gets to civil society to do that.
Yeah, and then of course it gets to the president himself. And we were chatting off air, and you said if President Jacob Zuma does the right thing, he won't sign this.
No, he won't sign this because it has been clear from 2 years since this bill was introduced that the majority of South Africans think this bill is very problematic. They don't like it. It's a feeling it's taking us backwards to a security state, to fear, intimidation, and this kind of thing. And if he listens, and if he's strategically smart, he'll refer it to the Constitutional Court for review. It should be, because there are serious constitutional issues at stake here.
Well, I mean, this, like you're saying, this has been going on for over 2 years now. Is it the longest that something has ever taken?
As far as I am aware, it's the longest time a piece of legislation in the post-1994 era has gone through Parliament, yes.
Wow. Well, look, it's got to tell you that government is listening. I mean, government is taking this very, very seriously in terms of, we could have just passed it and moved on, but they are taking into consideration what is being said by opposition parties.
Well, the thing that we wanted to point out was within government there's division, and within the ANC there's differences. There are people, I think, who are very uncomfortable with this bill, both within government and the ANC. The others, which we call the securocrats, from the intelligence and security agencies that are trying to be pushed this through from the very beginning. So it's not just civil society. There are divisions within our country around this, and that says quite a lot about, let's step back. Let's get a proper bill that passes constitutional muster that everybody can buy into. Nobody's saying that certain things don't need to be protected. We just don't want to go back to a bad old days of where we're fearful of what we say and what we do.
All right, well, we leave it for this year and we pick it up again next year. I suppose that is only a few days away.
It's only a few days away.
It's only
Thanks.
a few days away. Dale McKinney, thank you very much for talking to us here on Morning Live. Dale is the Gauteng representative for the Right to Know campaign, and we'll certainly be following this again in the new year.